Building something special doesn't happen overnight, and sometimes the difference between good and great is having the courage to keep investing in your foundation, even when everyone else thinks you've already done enough. Welcome back to Bears News Fan Report, your ultimate destination for the most updated news and all the rumors surrounding our beloved Chicago Bears. I'm here today to break down something that could change the entire trajectory of this franchise, a potential move that shows Ryan Poles isn't satisfied with just being competitive, he wants to dominate. What I'm about to share involves our offensive line, our franchise quarterback's future, and a draft prospect who could be the missing piece that takes us from playoff contenders to championship favorites. Stay locked in because this is information you absolutely need to hear, and I guarantee by the end of this video, you'll be looking at our 2026 draft strategy in a completely different light. Let's get into it. Look, I need to talk to you about something that's been on my mind ever since I started analyzing where this team is heading. We all watched what Ryan Poles did last spring. The man was on a mission, aggressively rebuilding our offensive line through free agency and the trade market. He brought in All-Pro Joe Thuney, a legitimate game-changer who's been everything we hoped for and more. He added veteran interior linemen Jonah Jackson and Drew Dahlman, guys with experience and proven track records. On paper, it looked like Poles had solved our offensive line problems in one offseason, like he'd given Caleb Williams the protection he needs to develop into the franchise quarterback we all believe he can be. But here's what separates good general managers from great ones. Great GMs understand that building an offensive line isn't a one-year project. It's not something you fix once and then move on to other positions. It's a constant process of evaluation, development, and strategic investment. And if you've been paying attention to how Poles operates, if you've been watching the patterns in his decision-making, you know he's not the type to rest on his laurels. He's always thinking 2-3 steps ahead, always planning for contingencies, always looking for ways to make this team better. That's why what I'm about to tell you shouldn't come as a surprise, but it should absolutely get you excited about where this franchise is headed. Because even after everything Poles did last spring, even after the significant investments we made in the offensive line, the overhaul may be far from finished. We could be looking at another major move to continue building up the offensive line in front of Caleb Williams next spring, and this move could happen regardless of whether Chicago makes a run into the postseason or not. Think about what that means for a second. This isn't reactionary. This isn't panic mode if we miss the playoffs. This is strategic planning at the highest level. This is a general manager who understands that protecting your franchise quarterback and establishing a physical identity on offense requires sustained commitment, not just a one-time splash in free agency. And when you consider who we have as our head coach now, when you think about Ben Johnson and the offensive philosophy he's bringing from Detroit, this approach makes even more sense. Johnson's offense is predicated on a violent downhill running game combined with play action and explosive passing concepts. We've seen what he did with the Lions, how he built one of the most physical and productive offenses in the entire league. That wasn't just about having talented, skilled players. That was about having an offensive line that could impose its will on opponents, that could create massive running lanes, that could give the quarterback time to let plays develop downfield. And now Johnson is here, building that same identity with DeAndre Swift and Kyle Monangai in the backfield, with Caleb Williams under center, and with an offensive line that's getting better but could still use another elite piece. CBS Sports NFL analyst Mike Renner just released his first 2026 NFL mock draft, and the player he has linked to the Bears is absolutely fascinating. This isn't some developmental project or a guy who needs years to contribute. This is a prospect who could walk in day one and make an immediate impact, who has the physical tools and the technical ability to anchor our offensive line for the next decade. Renner has us picking at number 25 overall in next spring's draft, which tells you he's projecting us to have a solid season, to be competitive, maybe even make some noise in the playoffs. And the player he has us targeting? An offensive lineman from Alabama. Now, before you roll your eyes thinking we're going to spend another high pick on the offensive line when we have other needs, hear me out on why this particular player makes so much sense for what Johnson is trying to build here. We're talking about someone who's been protecting one of the best quarterbacks in college football, who's been dominant against elite competition in the SEC, who has the size, strength, and technique to be an absolute force at the next level, Kaden Proctor. That's the name that could be called when we're on the clock next April. The Alabama offensive lineman who stands 6'7" and weighs 366 pounds of pure power and athleticism. Now, I know what you're thinking. That's a massive human being. But this isn't just size for the sake of size. This is a player who knows how to use every bit of that frame, who has elite footwork for someone his size, who combines power with technique in a way that makes offensive line coaches salivate. According to Pro Football Focus, Proctor is one of the highest-graded offensive tackles in college football this season, earning an elite 80.8 overall grade. That ranks him as PFF's 12th-ranked player at the tackle position, which is remarkable considering the level of competition he's facing week in and week out in the SEC. But here's what really stands out. Here's the stat that should make every Bears fan excited about the possibility of adding this guy. Proctor has allowed only 1 sack and 13 pressures in 282 pass-blocking snaps for the Crimson Tide this season. Let me repeat that because it's absolutely insane. 1 sack in 282 pass-blocking snaps. That's the kind of consistency and dominance you dream about when you're trying to protect a young franchise quarterback. That's the kind of player who can be the difference between Caleb Williams having time to go through his progressions and find the open receiver versus getting hit before he can even get through his second read. That's the kind of player who can help transform an offense from good to unstoppable. Now, here's where it gets really interesting, and this is where Ben Johnson's system comes into play. Renner writes in his analysis that Proctor is likely to end up as a guard at the next level, which makes sense given his size and skill set. But here's the beautiful part. Johnson's offense is one where Proctor could still play tackle, and the reason for that is because Johnson's system is so predicated on the run game, where Proctor is an easy people mover. That versatility, that ability to contribute at multiple positions, is exactly what you want in a first-round offensive lineman. Imagine having a player who can step in at guard and immediately upgrade our interior, or who could slide out to tackle if we need him there due to injury or scheme. That's the kind of flexibility that great offensive lines are built on. That's the kind of depth that allows you to weather the inevitable injuries and adjustments that happen over the course of a long NFL season. And when you combine that versatility with Proctor's elite pass blocking and his ability to maul defenders in the run game, you're looking at a potential cornerstone player. The Bears' commitment to building a violent downhill running game around DeAndre Swift and Kyle Monangai is clear. We've seen glimpses of what that can look like when everything clicks, when the offensive line creates massive holes and our running backs are hitting the second level with a full head of steam. But we've also seen games where the consistency isn't there, where we're not able to impose our will the way we need to. Adding someone like Proctor would be another massive step toward making that physical identity a reality every single week. And let's talk about what this would mean for Caleb Williams' development. We've invested everything in this kid, and rightfully so. He's shown flashes of brilliance, moments where you can see the elite arm talent, the ability to make plays that very few quarterbacks in this league can make. But we all know that quarterback development is about more than just talent. It's about having the time and the protection to let that talent flourish, to build confidence, to develop timing with receivers without constantly having to worry about pressure in your face. If Proctor's dominant level of consistency translates to the next level, and there's every reason to believe it will given his technique and production against elite competition, he could be the kind of player who anchors our offensive line for years to come. We're not just talking about a solid starter. We're talking about a potential all-pro caliber player who could be protecting Caleb Williams for the next decade, who could be a foundational piece as we build toward multiple championship windows. Now, I know some of you might be thinking, we have other needs, other positions that should be prioritized in the first round. And look, I get it. There are always multiple ways to build a roster, always different philosophies about where to invest premium draft capital. But here's my perspective, and this is based on watching how the best teams in the NFL operate. The teams that consistently compete for championships, the teams that have sustained success over multiple years, they're built on two things: elite quarterback play and dominant offensive line play. Everything else is important, but those two factors are the foundation. We have our franchise quarterback in Caleb Williams. Now, we need to continue building the infrastructure around him to maximize his potential. Ryan Poles understands this, Ben Johnson understands this, and that's why even after all the moves we made last spring, we're still looking at the offensive line as a priority position in next year's draft. This isn't about being dissatisfied with what we have. This is about understanding that you can never have too much talent up front, that depth and competition make everyone better, and that building through the draft at premium positions is how you create sustainable success. The fact that we're projected to be picking at 25 overall is actually encouraging. That means analysts believe we're going to have a competitive season, that we're going to win enough games to be in the playoff conversation. But whether we make the postseason or fall just short, the strategy should be the same. Continue building the foundation, continue investing in the offensive line, continue creating the best possible environment for Caleb Williams to become the elite quarterback we all believe he can be. So here's what I need from you. I need to know what you think about potentially using our first-round pick on Kaden Proctor. Are you excited about continuing to build the offensive line, or do you think we should prioritize other positions? Do you trust Ryan Poles' vision for how to construct this roster, or do you have concerns about investing another high pick in the offensive line? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, because I want to hear all perspectives on this. My final analysis is this: Kaden Proctor represents exactly the kind of player the Chicago Bears should be targeting in the 2026 draft. His elite pass blocking, his ability to dominate in the run game, and his versatility to play multiple positions make him a perfect fit for Ben Johnson's offense and our commitment to protecting Caleb Williams. Ryan Poles has shown he's willing to invest heavily in the offensive line, and continuing that investment with a player of Proctor's caliber would be a smart, forward-thinking move that sets us up for sustained success. If you want to stay updated on all the latest Bears news and draft analysis, make sure you're subscribed to Bears News Fan Report and hit that notification bell. We're going to be tracking this story closely as we move toward the 2026 draft, and I'll bring you every update and insight you need. Smash that like button if you found this valuable, share it with your fellow Bears fans, and let's keep this conversation going in the comments. I'll see you in the next one. Bear down.